Mate, Sean's got a very unique style. It looks like a pain in the butt to try and get around. And that style was super effective against Fluffy. He's jabbing his head off. And honestly, Fluffy had no answers. You know, he really couldn't get around Sean's style. And Sean just pieced him up, man. He just made Fluffy look very average.
I thought Sean looked a little different here. This time he was more aggressive. Obviously, uses the jabs and the teeps. We know that. But he was going to work with the right hands a lot sooner than what he usually does. Doing a really good job of fighting on his back foot. Excuse me. But the footwork was beautiful.
I think this was one of his finest performances, perhaps his best performance since his win over Adesanya. He looked inspired. He looked ready to go. Physically, when he came out, it was like, this is the best shape I've seen him in a very, very long time.
Fight night in Houston delivered shockwaves across the middleweight division as Sean Strickland secured a gritty victory over Anthony Hernandez in the main event at UFC Fight Night. Strickland versus Hernandez. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't pretty, but it was vintage Strickland, relentless pressure, suffocating pace, and a mental edge that slowly broke his opponent over 5 hard rounds. Immediately after the decision was read, reactions poured in from fighters across the Ultimate Fighting Championship roster. Many praised Strickland's durability and fight IQ, noting how he neutralized Hernandez's grappling threat while keeping the fight in uncomfortable boxing range. Several middleweights admitted they underestimated Strickland's ability to shut down a younger, explosive contender. Veterans pointed his jab as the real weapon of the night. Not a knockout punch, but constant disruptor that prevented Hernandez from ever settling into rhythm. Others highlighted Strickland's cardio, saying he looked just as dangerous in the 5th round as he did in the 1st. Some fighters, however, questioned what the result means for the division. Hernandez entered as a rising force, riding momentum and finishing ability. Losing a high-profile main event slows that surge and reshuffles a contender ladder. Meanwhile, Strickland reasserts himself as a permanent threat to anyone chasing the title. Analysts inside the MMA community also emphasize the psychological aspect. Strickland's trash talk, awkward pressure, and refusal to back up create a uniquely draining fight experience. It's not just physical damage, it's constant tension. With this win, the message to the division is clear. Sean Strickland isn't going anywhere. Love him or hate him, beating him requires more than power or hype. It requires surviving a storm that never stops moving forward. And after Houston, every middleweight contender is watching a little more carefully.
Going into this fight, Sean was a meaningful underdog. I bring that up because some guys do their best work when nobody believes in them. Some guys are not the same guy when they're supported and told how great they are. They do the best when they're questioned, and Sean Strickland is one of these guys. If you go back and look at the history of Sean's career, his best performances come on nights, and I'm not just talking about outcome. He's had great outcomes. But I'm not just talking about outcomes. I'm talking about the actual performance. He does his best when he doesn't have pressure, when the world doesn't think he can do it, when the world questions him.
You know, it's interesting do we on Sunday say things like that? Oh, he improved, he got better. And sometimes I don't necessarily think that's ever the case. Okay. Sometimes it might be the case. But to me, when you're dealing with a guy like Sean Strickland, who's been around for so long, who had such a reputation of always being really good, just not ever really being able to show it, I think this is a situation where it wasn't that he improved. He finally was able to show us how good he was.
Yeah.
Like I think he's always been this good. He's just never fought this way. And I think for whatever reason, he's matured into something that allowed him to fight this way.
But dude, Strickland will be so fucking annoying and hard to fight. But Anthony was backing up the whole time. It was like when Strickland fought Strickland was backing up Izzy the whole time. And then Strickland, this fight, Anthony Hernandez was quite a bit smaller, looked smaller, and was backing Strickland up the whole time. But Strickland was just fucking jabbing, beautiful jab, popping the jab, fast jab. He's so hard to hit clean, and then Anthony got in a couple take on in on a couple takedowns. Strickland was able to defend it. Strickland looked big, strong.
The way he throws his arms up so weird though. Like
It's so weird, bro. And it
yeah.
looks so not great, but it works and at the highest level.
And if we know anything, right, when Sean Strickland is at his best, he can fight behind the jab. When he fought Israel Adesanya, which to date is his greatest performance in his career, that jab was popping all night long. And tonight, it felt like that was the same thing that was happening to Anthony Hernandez. Hernandez couldn't really figure out the jab of Sean Strickland. And because he couldn't figure out the jab, Strickland was able to dictate and control the fight a little bit.
It wasn't the fit. It wasn't the type of fight that I was expecting Fluffy to fight. I thought he'd be a little bit more aggressive. I thought he'd take his head offline a little bit more. I thought he'd mix up the wrestling a little bit more. Get Sean really moving backwards. He had Sean moving backwards, but not with the aggressiveness of the boxing that I thought he was going to use.
But to me, this is an offense-first sport. This is an offense-first sport. And what has really troubled Sean Strickland as a fighter has been that he's been a little too defensive forward. To me, the big difference tonight was he didn't change up a lot. In many ways, it kind of looked like classic Sean Strickland in terms of what are the things that he does. But to me, he turned up the volume on the offense.
I thought Fluffy was going to be able to beat him because he's been looking pretty damn good recently. And Sean Strickland, you know, Sean Strickland has one gear and one gear only. He kind of just, that's Philly shell style, kind of walk you down. If he starts being walked down, he doesn't do as well. But he was able to get the job done, and he was an underdog, believe it or not. And I think Bad Bunny was praying that this man was going to get beat, but has to wait.
Sean Strickland over Anthony Fluffy Hernandez as a pretty sizable betting underdog. The former undisputed champion had an outstanding performance, Kenny. I thought he won both rounds 1 and 2 before delivering the finish at the 2:33 mark of round 3. And a huge win, I think, in a career full of them for an increasingly Hall of Fame guy in Sean Strickland.
I'm going to keep it real short and sweet. I think Sean Strickland absolutely dominates. I don't think that Fluffy's going to have any success trying to wrestle him. I don't think he's going to have any success backing him up. I think that this is the right style. I think I could be way off, but I just don't see it. I see Anthony having so much success against guys that are actually afraid to wrestle because of cardio. I don't believe Sean Strickland is that guy. I think he's very sound in his wrestling department. I don't think he's going to have a problem defending the strikes. If he can defend strikes and be right in Israel's face and not get touched up, he walked out of that fight with the belt without a single scratch on him.
Yeah. It's tough to say who I think is going to walk out on top. I lean a little towards Fluffy, and the reason why is because I know what Fluffy is going to show up. Fluffy's performances are